Ladies and gentlemen, he's the samurai of student ministry, the networking ninja, a Jedi master of church budgets, the beast from the southeast, the next-gen nerd himself, CJ!
What's up, my nerds? Welcome to the Next Gen Nerd Podcast. It's Miyazaki May, so all month we're looking at movies by Hayao Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli. Thank you to Matt West for doing our special cover art for this month, highlighting the art style of Miyazaki. Today's interview is with Asia Filipiak. I think I pronounced that right. She is with the Moviga podcast, so if you haven't checked them out, that stands for Movies and Video Games, Moviga, but she also does Twitch streaming under the handle Asia the Girl, and she does some cooking streams, and she talks about that in our interview. And we're talking about the post-apocalyptic Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, which I had not seen before doing this episode, and really enjoyed watching it. That is one of my favorite genres, is post-apocalyptic, and so it was really interesting checking this out, and very beautifully done, as are most of Miyazaki's films. Just beautifully done, so thoroughly enjoyed it. But before we get into the interview, I wanted to give you a little update on what I am reading, watching, and playing. And so I've got some updates there, and we'll have some of this more fleshed out on the next one. But I've been so busy with wrapping school up and a couple other things that there's not as much to share here, but definitely some gems. So first, reading. Last time I mentioned that I was going to check out His Majesty's Dragon, which is a story about the Napoleonic Wars, but with dragons. And so instead of an air force, they use dragons. And I really enjoyed this. It did not disappoint. If you liked the movie Dragonheart, it's very similar in that, in the relationship between the two main characters. So I'd encourage you to pick it up. It took me a whole chapter and a half to be completely hooked into the story, and really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed reading it, and the rest of the series is on my to-read list, so I'll be checking back in after I've read the next several, but it's a great book. Check it out, His Majesty's Dragon by Naomi Novik, and I listened to it on Audible, and it was really enjoyable. Thought the narrator did a good job, so definitely check that out. Also, as far as comics go, I just recently finished the Booster Gold Trade 52 pickup. And it is from the New 52. It was the first book they did with Booster Gold in the New 52. For anyone who doesn't read comics, every so often the different universes kind of reset and they make a bunch of changes. And so DC did this a while ago, and they called it the New 52. And so this is Booster Gold. And I've seen Booster Gold in some cartoons, but never read any comics of his. Booster Gold, for those that don't know, is a normal guy from the future who steals a bunch of stuff from a superhero museum that allows him to have superpowers, and then comes back to our time so that people can look at him and think, wow, he's really amazing. So, obviously a very arrogant hero. I did learn in reading this that he and I share a birthday, December 29th, so that was kind of cool. In this story, Booster Gold is given the choice between being able to claim glory for doing small-time fixing of crimes, fixing small problems, and be able to join the Justice League, or he can save the multiverse and everyone in it, but everyone will think that he is incompetent. So he has to weigh that. And with a character who's based in arrogance, it definitely makes for an interesting read. If you have Amazon Prime, you can actually check this out for free. It's one of the free books that you can check out and check back in with their Prime reading system, and so that's Booster Gold 52 pickup. I enjoyed it. If you read comics, I think you'll enjoy it as well. I have several more Booster Gold trades now on my wish list. I want to complete kind of the series that happened there in New 52. So it was really good. So I'm thinking about doing a book club for the Next Gen Nerd Podcast. Not exactly sure what that'll look like, but if you're interested in reading sci-fi, fantasy, nerd-based books with a group of other nerds, let me know. You can let me know in a comment on our YouTube channel, or you can send me an email at nextgennerdpodcast@gmail.com and let me know you're interested, and we'll definitely connect that way so that you can participate with that. So for watching, now that I've graduated, I'm kind of going through and kind of finishing series that I started and then didn't finish because stuff would come up, and so There's not a whole lot though to write home about. I'll get to that in a little bit. But I did finish Mandalorian season 3. I really enjoyed season 3 for the most part. The episode that I liked the least was actually the finale, and so it won't stop me from watching season 4. It won't. And it wasn't even the story as much as I feel like the way it was executed didn't really care for. I'll go into more detail on that on a future episode. I'm sure we'll do a kind of a recap with Cameron Diamond and John on Mandalorian season 3. But like I said, other than that, there really hasn't been much to write home about. I've caught a couple episodes of Barry and a couple episodes of Fired on Mars, and yeah, not really a whole lot. So if you have a recommendation on something to watch, let me know, because I've got some time to watch and would love to check something out. So you can do that again by leaving a comment on the YouTube or by sending me an email at nextgennerdpodcast@gmail.com. So as far as playing goes, the school's out for my kids, and so we've been playing some board and card games. We've been playing Sushi Go, which is a fun card game, trick-taking kind of game, and we've enjoyed doing that. We played Forbidden Island, which is a family favorite of ours anyways. It's a cooperative one, so we either all win or we all lose, and we all won when we played it last, so that was good. And a new one we've been playing is called Fantasy Flux. Now, if you're familiar with the Flux card games, it's that, but with with fantasy characters. For those that don't know, Flux is a card game where the rules keep changing, which seems very chaotic, and it is very chaotic. But one of the things is that you can win at any time, or you can lose at any time. Like there really is no pulling out ahead. So like think about a game of Catan or Monopoly where you're playing and you can tell that someone's going to win, but you have to sit there and wait as they completely dismantle you. That doesn't happen in Flux. At any moment, somebody can pull a card, drop a card that completely changes the direction of the game and cause someone else to win. My family's enjoying it, except for Zeke. I think it's just because he hasn't won a game yet. Not everyone's won a game. We've only played 2 or 3 of them, but we've really enjoyed just the fact that you never know who's going to win. And so you can't give up in the middle of the game because you keep playing, because who knows what's going to happen. So that's Fantasy Flux. That's what I've been playing. Not a whole lot of video games, but I'm wanting to get into that some more. I'm looking at my Xbox now that's on my desk, so I should be able to have some time to do that. My controller's right back here, ready. It's all charged, good to go. So I'll probably be doing some more of that soon. Just not sure where to start. But if you would like to play something together, again, let me know. Hit me with a comment on our YouTube or send me an email at nextgennerdpodcast@gmail.com and we can set something up, playing something together. Either Board Game Arena, if you want to play board games together, we can do that online. Or if you're wanting to do Xbox or whatever, we can connect. So that's kind of what's been going on right now. I think it's time for us to start the interview, so let's get nerdy. Well, nerds, thank you so much again for checking out the show. I'm excited today to have Asia with us. Asia is a Twitch streamer and a podcaster, and her husband Luke is on staff with LTN, which is how I got connected with Asia. And so I'm excited to have her on. When I was planning Miyazaki May, I was trying to see if there's anyone that was interested, and I figured I'd find somebody who was interested in a film, or they could probably carry a conversation on here. And then I was told by Tyranny, one of the LTN staff, you've got to talk to Asia. You got to talk to Asia. And so I'm excited to have her on. Asia, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be doing this with you because, yeah, Miyazaki and Ghibli is like the thing that I can nerd about all the time. I have it going on my projector behind me. I have like all kinds of nerdy art that's all like Miyazaki film based or Ghibli film based. And I just love talking about this stuff. So thank you for having me on.
No, I love it. I can't remember which one. I've watched several of them on HBO Max, but one of them on the extras has like 45 minutes of just music and footage.
That's this.
Nice, very nice. So we're gonna get into Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, and it was super interesting. I'm really excited to talk about that. But before we jump in, I would love to hear about you, about things that are exciting in your life right now, and also like what other nerdy interests do you have? What would you fill a Saturday afternoon with is kind of the idea there. So tell me what's going on with Asia right now.
Yeah. So like in my IRL life, I'm really excited about just building relationships with people in our church community or just like related to our church community in some way. Back in in or September or October, the youth pastor at our church, Sojourn New Albany, they asked if me and Luke could start a young adult group because there wasn't one. A lot of the people that had started that church were all around the same age, and they've all gotten older, and they're like in another stage of life, but there wasn't really anyone feeling like the need of like reaching out to people in that, whatever you want to, whoever adheres to the term young adult, because that's such a vague title.
Yeah,
But yeah, but it's been really fun, like hanging out with them and building relationships over the course of the last several months. And what's been super cool about that has been just seeing other people in that group be really into nerdy things in their own categories of nerds, whether it's like WWE or like video games, or in particular, one of our good friends that's been going since the beginning, or been attending since the beginning, she just got into streaming. I just got done today doing some creating some emotes for her, digital art, and her vibe she wanted was like a pastel Taco Bell like theme, and so I've been having a lot of fun with that. And I just love like being able to connect with people over that stuff, because like I feel like historically we haven't really been able to, I mean, before we like of course met all of our friends through LTN and been around Twitch and stuff, but before that there wasn't like a ton of people to nerd out too. So
nice.
That's
what is
nice.
What is her stream?
It is Faith OK, OKAY. Yeah, she just started streaming. She just hit affiliate, so she's really excited. She has all like the graphics to fill in, some doing everything like sub badges and emotes and
nice.
Yeah, fun things.
Very nice.
But yeah.
So you're the one I should come to when I get to that point. I graduate in 10 days, and so I've been getting things ready for having free time. And so so I'm kind of working that way, and technically had my first stream last Friday for 5 minutes while I mess with settings to go, okay, does that work?
Nice.
Work? Yeah.
You're doing
cool.
great.
So very cool. And yes, and Sojourn New Albany. First off, Sojourn in general. So the first campus in Louisville, our interim pastor helped to plant that church. That he was a big financial supporter of that. And so when I mentioned going to Sojourn, he's like, "Oh, I know that church. I'm well familiar with that." And so he's from Kentucky. Amazing. And I told him I was in New Albany. He's like, okay, I wasn't part of that campus. I was part of the original one. And but I got to participate with you guys after LTN Con. And I told my wife, I said, it was a different vibe. Like I thoroughly enjoyed it because I go to a traditional Southern Baptist church. And even though our worship leader is fantastic and is pushing the envelope in a lot of areas, it's still a traditional Southern Baptist church.
Yeah.
And I hate to use the word, but it's a very accurate word. It felt jazzy. Like it felt like everyone was just like, we're here,
not wrong,
loving Jesus, and this is a good time. Yes. It reminded me of like my early youth group days, like early 90s, early midnight, or early aughts, not early 90s, late 90s, early aughts. Nice. That period, the worship felt that way. It was just good. It was a good time. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Glad that was the conference on Sunday morning, was to go and enjoy that, because I really did.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's always, dude, worship is always a vibe. It's always a fun time. People just like praising Jesus and like doing it in the most creative ways. I am here for it. Yeah, so then more about my like nerdy stuff. Like you said, I stream and I'm on a podcast, and I really am into just, I don't know, like mostly, honestly, okay, I'm into a lot of things, but the thing that is like the cherry on top, but the cherry is like massive and like bigger than the sundae, is my love for Ghibli. And you can definitely see me spending so much time just watching and rewatching Ghibli movies, and like deep diving into lore about stuff, and like trying to find all the like documentary style like information about anyone related to like Ghibli films and surrounding Ghibli films. So that's my like, my heart is like, that's my nerdy thing for sure. I do love anime just in general, but like Ghibli movies have my heart, because when I was little, when I was like 6 or maybe younger, my dad, I'm from Guam originally, and my dad at the time, he would take business trips like around the Pacific, and so he would go to Japan a few times. And one time he brought back this doll that he got because he thought it looked like me. And then he found out that, oh, this is a character named May from Totoro. And so we found out there was a movie, and then that's how we got into it. And then from then on, me and in particular my older cousin, who I don't have any sisters, and so she's like a sister to me. She and I just like really leaned into everything Ghibli. We ate it all up. She didn't live. There's like a lot of like sentimental value to it, I guess, too, because like she didn't live in Guam. She would come over the summers because she lived off island, and anytime she would come visit, we would always watch through her like DVD collection binder thing of all the Ghibli movies that she had. And I just like had just fond memories for every film. Like there's like a nostalgic aspect for me for each of those films. But that little doll that I still have, it's actually like right over here. It was like my start into the fandom when I was very, very little. But besides that, I stream, I do a bunch of stuff, but whatever. It's not as fun as Ghibli.
Well, we'll talk more about that in a little bit. I like that. So this film in particular, so Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind, was originally released in the US with a different name. Have you watched that cut? I just saw that and just kind of quick research.
I have not actually watched that cut.
Wasn't it called like Warriors of the Valley or something?
Yeah. So, like something like that.
Something like that. But this is one of the reasons why Princess Mononoke was as long and as untouched as it was because Miyazaki hated what they did when they Americanized, which I can't think of another word to use, Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind. And so it'd be interesting. I didn't get a chance to look and see what the English voice actors were then. My sister, who I did an episode on Totoro with her, she doesn't like the new Disney voices. She likes the original.
Oh my gosh, we need to be best friends because I agree.
I will connect you too.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
She so I mentioned this on the episode I did with her. I had to go like on the dark web to find a torrent that had both those tracks so that she could watch it. And she goes, I have a copy that I have in my house, and I have a copy that I have in a safe somewhere. So that's like just tucked away just in case. So you haven't watched that original one, so I can't really ask, what was the voice acting different between those? Yeah,
man. Now you gave me homework. I love it.
Well, listen, I just saw that, and I think it removed a lot of the heart of it, and it became much more. I mean, let's be honest. That's you start cutting anything away from Miyazaki film, and you're removing the heart of it.
Yeah. What are you doing?
So it would be interesting. It would be interesting to see. But no, so I enjoyed the movie. When you mentioned Nausicaa, I'm a big post-apocalyptic fan. I don't know what that says about me as a human being, but I really do. I enjoy those things.
There are a lot of great post-apocalyptic things.
There are. And feels like every day you go, we're getting closer and closer to post-apocalyptic. But so why does Nausicaa rise to the top of your list? Like, what about this film is different? Because when I asked, it wasn't. I mean, you did say any Studio Ghibli film, but you did highlight this is one of the ones that you're like, I'd really enjoy talking about this. So why does this one capture your heart differently than others may?
Well, to begin with, this was Miyazaki's and Ghibli's first film that they produced, like as Studio Ghibli. And so the fact that like this is the first thing, and then like obviously we have like great movies that have come out of Studio Ghibli, but like this was like the flagship like first story that Miyazaki created with like such, well, I'm sure talk about this more, but like there's such deep like lore and backstory, like all the characters, regardless of like how much like screen time they have or like how much they were developed during the actual movie, like you could just tell that everyone had a history and nothing was just like written in like haphazardly. I actually just got a book. Oh, now I can't remember the name of it. Oh, I'm a terrible fan. But a graphic novel of Miyazaki's just came out in an English, like translated in English. It's been in Japan for forever long, but the story elements of this graphic novel were used in like Nausicaa, what became Nausicaa, which is super cool. So like I just love that Miyazaki had been dreaming up this world for much longer than whatever the like release date was. So I just love that creativity. I also really like that like some of his themes, like having an animal companion and having like these different like not trope in a bad way, but like he has like these specific themes that he keeps to as he creates all the stories. I just love how like so established they were. They might not have been perfect in every way, but like they were so established from movie one that like it just was setting the tone for his greatness and like the studio's greatness with all the movies they made after that. So that's why I love it.
I got you. And you said tropes, but when you start it, it's not a trope. I know these movies were released early 80s, and so I think a lot of current cinema probably draws a lot on these original ideas. And this wasn't it wasn't even a trope that because he used it in several of his films. I mean, that's the idea of a artist having a style. This was his style. His style was these components, like these themes that are repeated over and over again. This wasn't lazy storytelling. This is my style. This is my heart. This is where I go. I mean, we see that in creation. That's one of the things that you point to as a believer is, well, if you look at creation, there's some really great similarities across here. So there must have been a designer. And so when we see these things repeated, I think others have taken those bits from him because they're great bits. As someone who doesn't like animals, I like the idea of an animal companion. My family picks on me. I don't want a pet, but in a video game, I want to be a ranger that has the wolf. Like that's what I want.
That's amazing.
I think it's because they obey. Like animals that I've had, they don't obey. They don't listen.
They're too chaotic.
At no point do I see anyone in Dungeons and Dragons cleaning up poo after their animal. Like I don't see that happening. I think that's what it is. That's all the fun and none of the work. That's why it is. So one thing that I've noticed as I've been watching Miyazaki films is I feel like the story is like it's being tied in a bow, but the bow doesn't get pulled tight. It's not like this is the end. That it's getting close to a moment of hope. But I don't see him returning often. I had an episode last week with Mikey Burgett. He quickly poked holes all in that. And he's like, well, no, this one here had a sequel. This one here, he had some follow-up stuff as well. But I am wondering what you would do looking at this story, loving this world. What would know what? Before we get into there, we haven't really even talked about the general synopsis of the movie. So let's go over that. So give me
we're just so excited.
I know. I listen because I know that and you know that I know what happened. But for anyone who doesn't, give us an elevator pitch. Like this is the general idea of the movie and kind of where it goes.
Sure. Yeah. Basically, we follow Nausicaa in the story of post-apocalyptic world where there's like a virus of sorts that is spreading through spores and fungus and all that's spreading through this thing called the force of decay, and it just continues to take over the land, and so a lot of like what humankind has done is try to combat it with force, with weaponry or whatever. But in contrast, we have the Valley of the Wind, where Nausicaa is from, kind of learning how to live in harmony and be respectful of like the fact that while this diseased like ecosystem that keeps growing is diseased, it still is nature, and we can respect it and respect like all living like organisms. And so it's just really interesting to see the contrast. And so we just see that theme of like back and forth of like how people are trying to deal with this life-threatening, world-threatening, diseased ecosystem. And so basically we just follow a stronger force than the Valley of the Wind take over the valley and try to use its resources for their own ends. And you just see how Nausicaa rises to the occasion with all this conflict going on, and figures out how to combat all this animosity and violence with peace. But like even that peace is very powerful, and that is in the end what like saves the world essentially. And I love it so much. But that's like a general.
I like it. So the perceived antagonist at the beginning of the film is this forest and these bug creatures that they call ohms. They look like roly-polies on steroids. Is kind of what they look like. And these ohms are what is attacking anyone who jeopardizes the forest in some way or jeopardizes the jungle in some way, that's the white blood cells of the system, if you will, that's going after the infection. So that's the perceived antagonist at the beginning of the film. But as in every post-apocalyptic film, the perceived antagonist is never actually the antagonist. I think it's one of the reasons I like it. I really like it because it's not them, it's humanity. And so I always tie this back to The Walking Dead, that in the first several seasons, walkers are an issue, and they'll always be an issue. But after the first couple seasons, you learn it's not really the walkers that we have to worry about, it's the other humans that we have to worry about. And so you have the Valley of the Wind, the people of the Valley of the Wind. Nausicaa is their princess, but there are other countries, there are other nations that are fighting, and they don't take, like you said, the symbiotic approach to this life form that is the forest, that is the jungle. They want to break it. They want to suppress it, oppress it. And so there's this tension that grows there. And so no longer is the Valley of the Wind threatened by the jungle as much as they are these human oppressors. And again, you have this childlike, very innocent character that is so common in Miyazaki's films to be the savior, the one that comes and says, we're not going to do it this way. We're not going to be so overwhelmed by the hunger for power, by the hunger for greed, or by hurt. We're going to let those things go, which again is why this is a beautiful film, why so many of Miyazaki's films are not just enjoyable, but they're inspiring, and too for kids. Like that, even though there's some scary bits in his films, because the world is scary, that's why I find so many people who love Miyazaki have that love start at such an early age, because the hero is somebody that could be me. The hero is somebody that is like me.
And that's like, I mean, that is a big reason why Miyazaki writes movies the way he does, is like his whole goal is to speak to the next generation anyways, like that his target audience for the most part are children. And this is like super tangent, but like one of his films, Porco Rosso, which I also love, he has like a bittersweet like sentiment about Porco Rosso, because he feels like it wasn't actually written for kids as much as it was for adults, and he's like, that's not the point of Studio Ghibli. Like, we're trying to like be empowering and transformative of the next generation. So yeah, all that to say, yes, for kids.
So without spoiling the end, we don't want to spoil the end, because if you want to watch the movie, I highly encourage you to do so. But just know that it ends at a place of hope, and that's how all of his films that I've seen end, is at this place of hope, that there's some kind of resolution. There's some kind of like, this is we're moving in a good direction. It's kind of how they would end. And so I would love to know, this world that we don't really get to revisit, where would you take a sequel or a spinoff or a prequel, like something to flesh this world out more? Like, what would Asia do with the story to make it bigger?
I mean, I would love, I mean, okay, I haven't played through The Last of Us. I don't know all of the like the backstory and everything, but I watched the show that came out. And I've heard about like Last of Us Part 2, where there's like split perspectives that you're like exploring. So I don't really know all about that, but I do think it'd be interesting to explore the world of Asbel, which is like the guy that she meets like in the middle, and he's like part of another kingdom that, you know, is threatened by another kingdom. And I think it'd be really interesting to follow his story and like see him and Nausicaa like continue on their paths and see how they cross over. So I don't know if that would actually work better as like a TV show or something more than a movie, but like I'll take anything. But I just think it'd be interesting.
The renaissance of streaming series, where instead of having a 2-hour movie that leaves you going, why did you cut all these things out, having an 8-hour TV series to be able to flesh, it's what I'm here for. It's what I'm here for. So I like that. He was with the Pajit Empire, right? Wasn't he with them?
Yes.
Which I didn't hear it. I wish I would have seen this earlier. But Mark Hamill, I guess, was the Pajit general or whatever. The mayor of Pajit, which I didn't know that. I know he was in Castle in the Sky.
As Muska.
Yes, but I did not know that he was in this one as well. I'll need to go back and watch it, listening for that. Okay, I like it. I like following that. Yes, following Asbel, seeing that. Yeah, I would like that. I would even like to see kind of what's like after moment zero where the forest decides we're going to take this back. Like I would love to see that
Yeah.
kind of blossom and see what happens
Yeah, that'd
there.
be interesting.
Or fast forward several hundred years in the future after this, and so this symbiotic harmony has taken place where all the people have kind of joined with the forest, but then of course in the cyclical nature that is humanity, there comes another moment of oppression and of danger, and then see maybe some tribes that are more symbiotic and those that are not, and kind of how that works. So I would like listen, I'm in for more I'm in for more of this world. I would love to see more of this world and go from there. One thing that they hit on and then they move away from at one point, Nausicaa is going to have to leave, so she goes to her secret sanctum beneath her castle.
Crazy. I can't believe she did that. Like
and she has been experimenting with pure plants and pure water and all those things. And two, at one point in the movie, she finds herself in a safe place in the forest, a place that she could go and live and thrive. Removing the antagonists, okay? Removing the, let me rephrase that. Removing the actual antagonist. You still have the perceived antagonist. Removing that.
The actual threat.
The actual threats. Where do you think Nausicaa would have gone with her discoveries of those safe plants in the safe zones? Like, how would that have developed? Again, for story purposes, you need that antagonist. But just wondering this world, like where could that have gone if she didn't have the threat of war thrust upon her 20 minutes into the movie? Where could that have gone?
Yeah. I mean, I totally could see her like creating a whole the starts of like a whole civilization underground, like under like even like her sanctum thing was like underneath the bottom of the castle, like everything was like underground. So I think it would have been really interesting to see her kind of lead this like very creative, innovative striving for like finding out how to like live underneath the surface, and then probably from there over generations be able to like purify from like within, which I think would be another good like imagery thing. But if only. But yeah, she needs a story.
Okay. Yeah. No, again, the curiosity that's there, and not even like a bad curiosity, not like curiosity is bad, but it's this kind of hopeful, like, what could we do? Like, how could we live? How could we thrive? Which is what sets her up to save the day. Sets her up to save the day. So the big theme here seems to be that, and not just in this movie, in several, that for Miyazaki is that humans destroy the world and then the world has to reset. Why do you think Miyazaki hits this like he does?
I think it has to do with just like his whole like world philosophy, life philosophy. I mean, Miyazaki is like a famous pacifist. He also like has a perspective on like the inevitable. It's almost, I mean, outside, not grounded in the gospel, this can have like very like sad like implications, but like he like kind of talks about like the inevitability of man, essentially, like or of like human nature, and so like learning how to balance that reality with like a desire for peace in the world in all senses of the word, like peace interpersonally, intrapersonally, and like with nature, like having harmony there. I think that's just like always his perspective, and so I think like that is always his narrative of like, if it kind of like a Jurassic Park, like life will find a way, like even if like humankind like goes at it and are crazy, like the people are not as strong as they think they are, and so human nature will find a way to correct itself, or like you said, reset, or like create a new normal that like thwarts all the plans of man, which I think is very fascinating.
And to, I'm sure his life philosophy is influenced by culture. I'm thinking about the Godzilla movies of Japan in reaction to the atomic bomb drops in World War II. This idea that nature moves against what man puts on it. And so, how far back does this go in Japanese culture? This idea of this, opposite equal reaction. You know, this reaction, this action, opposite reaction. So, but he hits this, and it's the same thing in Princess Mononoke. You know, that there's this destroying of the forest, and the forest sends protectors to go and fight back and balance. And so I haven't done a whole lot of research into Miyazaki's life, but I would be interested to see how that plays out, or why that is such a key factor. I'm thinking, you know, if it's I think religious. I think it's is it Taoism that is the yin and yang? Is that what the anyways?
Yeah.
Ish, something like that. It would be interesting. And so with this idea of nature rebounding, I thought it was interesting that the only mutated species that I can see are these ohms, you know, are these bugs, these giant bugs. Whereas in, you know, the Fallout games, every creature that existed has some weird radiated form that's there, or I'm trying to think other movies or TV shows or games where it's this post-apocalyptic scene, is there's more than just one creature that seems to be affected. So why do you think it is that we only get to see these mutated bugs? Why is it you think that's where he kind of focuses?
Like, I mean, who knows for sure, but what I think would be at least very interesting reason would be, you know, we just think of bugs as like, you know, we step on bugs, and bugs are whatever, and they're like so insignificant, like have I mean, you know, for the most part, zero consequence. And I think it's just like this like role reversal, or like the tables turning of like, okay, now the bugs are taking over us, and or, you know, humankind. So I feel like that could have something to do with it, is like, you know, not taking even the smallest forms of life for granted, because, you know, you get big roly polies.
Big roly polies, big scary roly polies.
Scary.
No, I can definitely see that. I can see that being part of the case. You know, especially given the if it's Tao, if it's karma, or whatever it is, that idea of these small creatures being the ones to rebel. One other thing I had on here, just discussion wise, and then we've got a couple of this or that's, and we'll talk more about Moviga and stuff. That weird giant monster thing, I feel like is really just. I think it's just a MacGuffin. Like I'm going, what purpose did it serve? It got 2 blasts off, and then it disintegrated. You know, and it attacked these ohms, which there was, you know, too many. And, you know, it wasn't like, I felt like it was a MacGuffin. I felt like it was a MacGuffin. But what I don't, was there anything that you seen in research that like, oh, this is where this idea comes from, or I missed some part of the movie where they said, you know, this is how this thing was created? Like, so
I think it's pretty, I mean, I'm sure there are like resources out there that I'm not like fully aware of. Like I said, like Miyazaki created this whole like history and world like from before Nausicaa, and like an iteration of it is like in this like graphic novel, but there's just like a lot of stories. I know there's also like a Nausicaa like graphic novel that I want so bad. It's so expensive though. One day I'll find it for not that expensive. But I believe so. If you watch the title sequence, like especially towards the beginning, Miyazaki really heavily, I think it's most effective, or like most prominent maybe in Castle in the Sky, but definitely in Nausicaa too. Like you see the like tapestry art style like pass through in this title sequence, and you just kind of see like the history of like how did the world become what it is by the time, like for the beginning of the movie. And so while I'm not totally sure how exactly they were created, like you do see that like the Oma, the like the great warriors, whatever they're called, they like they were the powerhouse, like and like people used the Oma to do their bidding. And so then, you know, they eventually like died off. And so I think like, yes, it is like anticlimactic in a sense, but I am almost positive that that's intentional, to the point of Miyazaki being like, you like, people do not have control over nature. Like you're trying to unnaturally bring this extinct like being back to life, and like nature is like, no, like that's actually not going to happen. And so that's why like so quickly this this warrior that they've like sacrificed so much to get and revive, like ends up doing them basically, there's like basically no benefit to having it in the end. And I think that like ironic twist is like part of the like point that Miyazaki is trying to like drive through the story.
Yeah, it's it kicked the hornet's nest is what it did. It really,
Yes.
it just made everyone angry and knows exactly where you're at. Okay, all right. So one of the things I like doing is kind of this or that. So making you choose between two options and kind of explain why that is. So we're going to place CJ and Asia right in the middle of the of the movie here and talk about a couple options. So the first question I have are the Lord Yupa's Dodo Riders. You can have one of those, or
we didn't even talk about Yupa. Yupa is the bomb. He's so
Yupa
cool.
is the bomb. Yes, and voiced by Sir Patrick Stewart.
Yes,
it's definitely worth it. Listen,
amazing.
I say this. So I'm in the middle of my last semester of school. I've never mentioned that already, but I had to take a preaching class, and there was one guy that I told him, I said, I would listen to you read the phone book, dude. It's the same thing with Patrick Stewart. Like, if he's reading the phone book, starting from the top, I'll listen to it. It just, yes, sounds great. So he has these dodo riders, giant dodo birds, look kind of like ostriches that he rides that are very, very fast, faster even than option 2, the glider.
Sure.
And so you have the ability to have one of these. Asia, which one do you pick and why?
Oh man, from the first time when I was little that I watched Nausicaa, I always wanted that glider. I was like, I need that. Like, she was just so cool how she like used it like in very unique ways too.
Yeah.
Like her mastery over that vehicle was crazy, and I was just like, one day. So I mean, the Dodo Riders are super cute, and they're really cool. And I mean, Yupa looks awesome, like riding one, but the glider is where it's at for me. Like, I can't, even if it's not as fast. Like, she's just zipping around, doing her thing.
No. I agree completely. The ability to fly is, Lord, if you could give me a superhuman ability to fly, it would be great. So no, I agree. I do like the idea though of having a dodo rider that is very fast. I mean, and it was just, I was watching the end credits, which fast. I didn't know this until I read, again, a little research, that the end credits of the movie paint more of a tying of the bow. Didn't realize that. So I went back and watched that today, and Lord Yupa passes her in the dodo rider. So that was the one that I would like. I would like the ability to go really fast. I do like that. Yeah. But I'm also going to go with a glider because I like to fly. Second question, if it's not toxic, do you want to live in the jungle, in the forest, or in the Valley of the Wind? Where is it that you would rather be?
I think if the forest wasn't toxic, I would prefer the forest.
Okay.
Because the Valley of the Wind is awesome in so many ways, but like part of its like charm and its like uniqueness is the fact that it's like surviving amidst desert and like diseased forest. So I think if the forest is not diseased, I would just be like, I'll just go hang out in the forest. Like that first scene where Nausicaa's like getting samples and gets the like exoskeleton eye thing of the Om. I'm like, dude, that's so cool. It looks so cool there.
That is cool. Yeah, I think I want to stay Valley of the Wind. I like the open air. I like being near the water. I like those things. I think I'm going to pick to be a little bit different there and go with that. All right, and so my last this or that question, going back to the animal companion, you can choose one of these as an animal companion. The tiny little fox thing that she had running around her, or I thought the baby Om, despite it being bloody and juicy, being pretty cute. So you can have one of those as an animal companion. Which one do you choose and why?
While I love Baby Om, but Baby Om is so cute, I have to go with Keto, the like tiny fox, because it's just cute, and I feel like I end up getting essentially the real life version of that with our dog Pocky. So I like every time I see Keto, I'm like, that little fox is Pocky. Like, even the attitude.
Very nice.
Yeah.
When I posed that question, I did think of Pocky, and I thought I think that's probably the case. And I'm going to take the Converse and go with the baby Om.
We can play together.
Yes, because I don't like people touching me. Like I love giving hugs and whatever, but the idea of being
not about
on places in my body, like the shoulder rub. I don't like a shoulder rub. Right? So having an animal companion that I can have at somewhat of a distance, I like that. So I like that idea. And two, I just think it'd be neat. I think the connection in the short period of time that we saw Nausicaa and that baby own make, I feel like was a greater connection than even her and so
that's a good argument.
and it could be because it was injured and it was in danger, and so there's that heightened emotional state there. Or that Miyazaki's trying to play that up because these are not monsters. These are normal creatures. Right. And it was really easy to sell a tiny little baby fox thing. It's very easy to sell that as cute. So yes, true. Okay. All right. I like it. So you mentioned at the top here of the interview a couple things that you do, and I want to hear more about those things. And so in either order, whatever you want to talk about, I'd love to hear about your Twitch stream and also about Moviga and what Moviga does and the podcast and all those things.
Yeah, sure. I'll start with Moviga. So sometimes I have like imposter syndrome because I'm by far the newest member of that podcast. But Moviga is a group of friends that talks about movies and video games and everything in between. And historically, it was these friends from high school in South Carolina and their mutual friends that created this podcast like I don't actually know how many years ago, several years ago. And over time, they've like looped people in. And then I ended up, they befriended Luke first, actually, because they all like played Destiny together. And this is like the beginning, like before Luke was like even coming up close to working at Love Thy Nerd full time. But we all became friends through that process, and they had me and Luke guest on the podcast several times. And then eventually a spot opened up and they asked me, and I was like, oh, they asked me, not Luke. That's like very nice. So I've been podcasting with them for the over like a year and a half, I think. And it's a fun time. I highly recommend, the podcast. It's always fun. It's cool to see like everyone's very, loves each other, but feels very comfortable disagreeing with each other if we think that each other's takes are not the right takes.
Okay.
So it's a fun time. And everyone's like into so many different things. So I like the variety is kind of nice too. I don't know if you're like into TikTok at all, but there was like a little trend where like the Butterfly in the Sky song from Reading Rainbow would come on if you're like just daydreaming. And so every time Brian or any of them like go really into Destiny or Elden Ring or those vibe of games, I'm just like over here. So I'll join the conversation when we're not talking about this anymore. So it's a fun time though. So we record every Tuesday on Twitch at twitch.tv/Moviga. You can find Moviga wherever you listen to podcasts, which is fun. And in addition to that, I also have my own content. I have a Twitch channel and some just like I'm everywhere, I feel like, but nowhere at the same time. But my content is Asia the Girl. So on Twitch twitch.tv/Asia the Girl for my Twitch channel, or you can just go to asiathegirl.com and it'll just link you to everything. I feel like that's a lot easier than trying to like have people go to a million places. But my heart for my content is to, essentially kind of inject my how I am in real life, like online, and by that I mean I really like real talk. I really want to have a good I want to be a good steward of a gift of hospitality that I believe that the Lord has gifted me with, and in my mind that means like creating spaces with like by the way that you approach people, so that can be in your home or outside of the home, of like just making people feel safe and like open to have friendships, like whether they want to or not, like that's up to them, but like just to create that welcoming environment. And so I try to have that perspective with any content I do, whether it's like like small TikToks or whatever, or more effectively I would say live on Twitch. And so I try to turn my studio or my kitchen into just like a virtual space to hang out, and it not really be about like me like marketing my own things as much as it is like getting really excited about something we can enjoy together, or get to learn other interests that other people have in an effort to like build genuine like friendships with them, and for them to have that with each other. So that's what I try to do on my channel. So it looks, for like practically speaking, that looks like a lot like co-working streams, chill like puzzly gaming streams, digital art, and cooking streams are like what I've been sewing streams. I've been doing sewing streams lately.
Nice.
So just anything to do to hang out together. Like I just wanted an excuse to hang out, essentially. So
No, I like it.
that's a little bit about me.
Very nice. No, yeah, I like it. My initial introduction to Twitch was Bubba's channel, when he would do in his morning Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday mornings, and it felt weird at first. Like I feel very comfortable. Like I am hanging out with this guy on Twitch. I'm spending time with him this way. But no, I think it's been good. Did I freeze? Did you freeze? You back?
Yes, we're back.
Okay,
cool.
All right.
I was just trying to be calm and not interrupt you. I wasn't sure.
No,
I was like, I can't
you're
hear
good.
you, but I don't know
You're
if he's
good.
talking.
That's all right. So I will make a note to check this. It is still recording. Cool. No, I think it's great. And I think you're right that there's a great possibility of connecting with others on Twitch. I think Twitch really breaks that fourth wall of your typical online content of this person's doing this and I get to watch it, but I don't really know them.
Right.
I think about podcasts that I have listened to hours and hours and hours of, and it's like I know this person, but this person doesn't know me. Whereas on Twitch, I do know these people. I have spent time communicating with these people. And my first introduction to that was with Bubba from Love Thy Nerd and his morning streams on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday when he had his own channel. And I really felt like I was getting to know him and spending time with him and interacting. And so no, that's great. I think that's wonderful. I think there's something to be said of taking the gifts God's given you and use them every way you can. I think that's why we're given them, not just to be used inside church ministry on Sundays from 9 to noon, that we're gifted with certain things to use those all the time. So I appreciate you sharing those. And now that I've got asiathegirl.com, it makes it a lot easier on the show notes to go ahead and share your stuff. I can just share that. And
great. Happy to help.
Yes, sounds good. Well, Asia, I appreciate you coming on and talking Miyazaki with me and enlightening me to more about him and Studio Ghibli and Nausicaa. And look forward to talking to you about more stuff in the future.
Happy Miyazaki May.
Yes, happy Miyazaki May.
Thank you for listening to the show. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, which is the last one for Miyazaki May, and it is Castle in the Sky, and I'm talking with Hillary and Charlie Fisco. Now, I met them at LTN Con this last year and thoroughly enjoyed our conversations, and I enjoyed this conversation. I've already got the episode recorded and excited to have it drop next week. It's just a great conversation, great family to talk to, so I encourage you to check that out. If you want to know more about what's going on with us, or you're wanting to connect in a different way, all the links for our socials and our Discord and our merch are all going to be in the show notes. So when you're done driving or whatever you're doing, come back to this episode, check out the show notes, and all those links are there for you to be able to follow us on Instagram or YouTube or anything in between. So I encourage you to check those things out. Join us on Discord. Is where we kind of communicate between episodes, and I can drop some stuff that I've seen. We'd love to have you on there, and that's where some of our Dungeons & Dragons stuff for Next Gen Nerd is going to be happening soon. So if you're interested, make sure to check that out. I think that's it for this episode, so until next time.
Peace out, Seacrest!